How you doing, everybody? I'm Ben Fiorello. We're here at the center of the model railroad universe, the NJ Hi-Railers train club in Paterson, New Jersey. And this is my compadre, Kevin Martin.
Nice to see you this morning, Ben. Today we're going to be talking about the Erie Lackawanna SD40, the Bicentennial version that Lionel just put out.
It's an SD45.
SD45. Let's try that again.
No, that's good. Okay, a little bit about the real SD45. The SD45 was introduced by GM EMD in 1965. It's a 3,600 horsepower engine. The problem with the engine when it first came out is it was so powerful it would break its own crankshaft. So it wasn't a real high, it was a high maintenance engine. The beginning of the 1970s, the Northeastern railroads were all going broke. So things were happening around the country, and the biggest thing that was happening in the 1970s was the Bicentennial, which was a little bit of making the country feel good about itself. So all the railroads in the country, well, most of the railroads in the country, took a couple of engines and painted them in the red, white, and blue Bicentennial features here. Erie Lackawanna actually had two of them painted in this. One was an SD45, 3632, and the other one was SDP45, and that was 3638. Unfortunately, Erie Lackawanna only lasted 6 months with this paint scheme, and then they were folded into the Conrail system in the Northeast. Hurricane Agnes actually did all the Northeastern railroads in, and that was the final straw for Erie Lackawanna. They were the last railroad to be brought into Conrail, along with all the other Northeastern railroads, Penn Central, Jersey Central, and probably about 6 or 7 others, little railroads. But Conrail took over these engines in 1976 and changed the Erie Lackawanna scheme to Conrail. This is the Lionel version of the SD45, 3632. I actually have two of them because I like them so much. So I eventually plan on changing the number on this one to 3638, even though it's an SD45, not an SDP45. The SDP45 was a passenger locomotive that came out in 1968. Unfortunately, most of the passenger service of all the railroads disappeared into Amtrak in 1972, but the reason why Erie Lackawanna bought the SDP45 was it was 10 feet longer and had a larger capacity fuel tank, which enabled them to do piggyback service between Chicago and New York with one set of crews. It didn't have to change. It had the larger capacity fuel tanks. It didn't have the Erie Lackawanna version didn't have the steam generator for passenger service.
Ben, you're a big Erie Lackawanna fan. No. I mean, that's the only thing you literally have in this gigantic warehouse of trains we have. What's the reason behind your fascination with the Erie Lackawanna? Is there something unique about that particular railroad that made you a real fan?
When I was young, we used to go to a vacation home in Lake Hiawatha, and we used to take the Erie Lackawanna MU cars out of Hoboken. And all I remember was, as a kid, I remembered a Hoboken terminal, and getting off the ferry and looking around at Erie Lackawanna. Actually, Erie Lackawanna. Everything was Erie Lackawanna, yeah. And it just stuck in my head. I love their paint scheme, and
those were the days. I remember those days. My dad used to go into the city the other way, and that's pretty much all we saw down there as well. But I didn't become a true Erie Lackawanna fan. I have a few favorites. New York Central being one of them, and I know how much you love them and the Union Pacific Railroad. So, but we'll stick with Erie Lackawanna. Color scheme, route miles. Did they? How big was this railroad, Erie Lackawanna, in relationship to some of the eastern?
Erie Lackawanna was a compilation. There was a merger in 1960 between the Erie Railroad and the Delaware Lackawanna and Weston. It ran from Hoboken, Jersey City to Chicago, Erie Lackawanna. It took the best of both worlds. Erie wasn't run as well as the Lackawanna. Lackawanna was a really well-managed company, really well-maintained company, and they brought that over to the Erie. If it wasn't for Hurricane Agnes in the 1970s, the Erie Lackawanna would probably still be around.
Survival was
They were the only Northeastern railroad that was pretty solvent.
Interesting. So on these particular engines, these are the Lionel versions. You are a big fan of Lionel, I know that. And what did you like about the scheme of this engine? The fact that, forget the model number, paint color you like, ease of programming, ease of run. What did you like about the features on
Well, me
this?
being an old guy that can't see too well, the best thing is all the switches are right here. All the switches for program, for Odyssey on and off, for smoke on and off, and to add your battery, everything is right here. So it makes it a lot easier for old people. You don't have to look underneath the engine to see all those little switches
Right.
that you can't read what they are.
Right.
You know, so that makes it great. Another thing I really like about this locomotive, and I was showing you a little bit back, it looks like it's a fixed pilot, which everybody loves the fixed pilots.
Right.
Usually there's a big space here, and it looks like it doesn't look right. It looks,
Not proportional.
not proportional. But what Lionel did here was make it look like a fixed pilot, but it's not actually a fixed pilot. The pilot moves with the coupler, and that enables the engine to go around a tighter curve.
So instead of the standard, if you want to run it on a 31 or
I
a
think
smaller radius.
I think 36 is the minimum radius on this, but this is a great feature. I love this. It
Lots of
looks great because it looks like a fixed pilot, but it's not. It
So you get a lot of flexibility with this. It's easy to lash up,
Yeah.
and you can get a nice consist behind it.
Yep.
Because of the ability for that pilot to move.
I love it.
You want to go through some of the other feature sets on here, Ben, in terms of the horn, whistle blow, whistle steams, not whistle steam effects. Sorry about that. I'm a little tired this morning. Had a rough night.
This is a diesel engine. There's no
whistle there, so that's okay. We like that kind of
It
stuff.
has a thing called a
Horn. Yeah, I know. So let's go
Okay.
through some of the other feature sets. I like the paint scheme on all honesty. I think they've done a real nice job. It's crisp and clean. As you pointed out, the number sets are 36, 32, and on this one it's 36, 38.
No,
You're going
this
to
is
paint
also-
that
I'm
one.
gonna paint
You're going
this
to paint
one,
that
yeah.
one to 36, 38. But I think what's really nice is you can see the nice break in the colors. It's crisp, it's clean. The Erie Lackawana logo is really sharp. I happen to like the lower portion of the engines myself. I think that the trucks and the fuel tank and all the feature set down there are really, really sharp. The way that silver pops out against the other three colors.
It's a great looking engine, and
Yeah.
I mean it's true to prototype. Eventually, Conrail took these over, and they left it exactly the same, but they just had a Conrail name on it instead of Erie Lackawana.
Is there any of these like laying around at people's backyard type of things, where like maybe at a museum or anything like that, where you would see this type of color
Oh, you
scheme
went to
anywhere?
view room now?
No. There are Erie Lackawana, there are SD45s left around, not too many, because like I said, it's a high maintenance engine.
Right.
It was so powerful, it would break its own crankshaft. So it was 3,600 horsepower. It's on the same frame as an SD40. With the SD40, you see the big end porches.
Right.
This had a bigger motor, so that's why it took over the whole frame. But there are SD45s around, not any Class 1s. EMD updated this engine to SD45-2 in, I think it was 1974 or 73, and those you'll see all over the place.
Okay.
But not the SD45.
Going back to the feature set that Lionel typically puts in their legacy products, this has the crew talk sounds, right?
Yep.
It has the ability for you to power up, power down, and speed. The speed control.
It's got speed control. It's got
How's the pulling power on this thing? I know that we saw it run earlier in the day.
Okay.
We'll show it a little later.
I pulled 35 hopper cars with it with no problem up the grades. Another thing about this engine, about where we're sitting here in Patterson, the Erie Lackawanna main line was right behind this building. So you would have seen this engine passing by with loads.
Right.
Usually it was probably seen with piggyback service,
Okay.
from Chicago to New York and New York to Chicago. So.
All right. Let's do this. Let's get it up on the layout. Let's put some cars behind it, give people a little bit of sound action on it, some horn activity, and we'll talk about some of the features as the engine is in motion.
Great.